All right, hi everyone, my name is David. I'm going to be running Blaster Master for you, but if you've ever played this game before, you probably don't recognize this title screen. That's because I'm going to be running the Japanese version. And because I'm running the Japanese version, before I even start, I'm going to power the console off and then back on again. And the reason for that is because the reset button doesn't properly clear memory. So if I want to make sure I have a clean run, I like to power off and on first. And time starts when I gain control of the tank. So are we ready to go?
Yeah, absolutely. On your mark.
All right, so it'll be about 10 seconds from when I press the start button. So here we go. And for those of you who know the US version, you'll already notice that this opening screen's a little bit different. We've got fade in, gain control, and go. All right, so for those of you who don't know this game, it's basically a little platformer for the NES. You're controlling a tank. There's some plot differences between the US and Japanese version, but for the most part, the US version is considered the canon one. So we'll be calling the tank by its US name, Sophia III. One thing you're already going to notice is that on screen transitions, I'm pausing and unpausing. The reason for that is because think NES Metroid. When you go through each door, it's going to do a little scrolling animation to get you to the next room, but pausing and unpausing skips that animation. So every time we do a screen transition, we must pause and unpause. So next thing you'll notice is I can hop out of the tank. I'm not running in the tank the whole time. And I hopped out of the tank because the tank is extremely slow in water. I swim faster through water than the tank can drive through it, for now at least. So we get out of the tank to get into these little overhead dungeons because the tank's too big to fit in here. And you'll notice on the left, I've got power, which is basically my health bar, and I've also got gun. There's a little pickup there that can power it up. We're not going to be getting any of those. So like, I've got a little pea shooter here. It's not great, but we also have grenades, and you can't upgrade those, and the grenades are more powerful than anything you're going to get. We do have to kill some of these guys. They have little sub-weapon pickups that we're going to be using. And then here we're going to go on the first boss. So this boss is called Mother Brain, not to be confused with the one from Metroid, but thankfully it's a lot easier. But basically, we're just going to throw grenades at it until it is dead. Easy enough, right? And so it dropped an upgrade for the tank. Basically, this is Hyper. It's a weapon upgrade. It's going to make my tank shots a little more powerful. Those Metroids get in the way sometimes. They're not really Metroids, but they look like Metroids. So if you paid attention to the shots I was firing earlier, you'll notice that the sprite has changed. It's now a little bit bigger. One thing I have not mentioned yet is that I'm destroying as many enemies as I can on the way. This is a very laggy game, but Hyper allowed me to destroy that gate monster. Without it, I could not have harmed it. So going into Area 2, you know, the game is still easing into it just a little bit, but it's now throwing these worm monsters at me. They're a little too short to hit with the Hyper when they're on the ground, so I usually have to hit them in the air, or else they'll get in my way, and I'll have to either take a hit or maybe have Jason hop out of the tank to deal with them. I don't want to do that. But yeah, this is an extremely difficult game, and it's not going to look at it first. Areas 1 and 2 kind of ease you into it a little bit. But yeah, these skull guys are going to drop some marbles or something. They do a lot of damage, like 2 bars off the power bar. And like most of these enemies are dropping, well, about a third of them drop health refills. And so that's one of the things that the game does to lull you into a false sense of security and make you think, oh, this won't be too bad. So apart from the really good graphics, the tight controls, and the absolutely awesome music, this game's pretty famous for being really, really difficult. Yeah, well, one of the things you might not notice is that when I'm aiming up, like there's kind of a small delay as the tank actually gets into position. So sometimes it's hard to make sure you are actually aiming where you need to go. You kind of have to see what you're doing in advance. That jump's kind of hard to make. But we're coming on the Area 2 dungeon here. So one of the things I'm going to watch for in this dungeon is that these guys can sometimes drop something that looks like a circle that says H on it. You'll notice that my health refills are circles with P's in them for power. H stands for hover. And I'm trying to see if I can get one. And there's one, so I'm watching out for those. And yes, I'm taking damage on purpose. Jason and Sophia have separate health bars, and every time Jason hops back into Sophia, his health bar refills. But this is the Area 2 boss, Crabulous, and I'm about to use a well-known glitch here. This glitch is so well-known that Nintendo Power even advertised it in its magazine. But basically, you pause the game while the grenade's exploding, and the boss just takes damage until it's dead. And so Crabulous there dropped Crusher, which is the same sprite, but now I have a Rainbow Beam. Which is kind of funny because you would expect Hyper to be the Rainbow Beam and Crusher to be the big one, but no, it's the other way around. So there's a little bit of backtracking to do here. The entrance to Area 3 isn't too far. But yeah, just... And sometimes those guys move a little randomly and can hit you on the way down. But, you know, you're just looking for things to kill so that you can get your power back. So Crusher allows me to destroy these blocks. It's probably one of the most useful upgrades in the game. So Area 3 is the point at which you start to feel the game's difficulty. It kind of takes the gloves off a little bit. So these little gumball machines, I guess, will drop marbles all over the floor. I don't know, but they do 2 bars each. They hurt a lot. And if one or two of them hits you, then you're suddenly in a real bad spot. You might have noticed on the left that there's a place where it says HOV, but there's no bars associated with it. That's for the hover module that I'll be getting later. I start off with 0 fuel for it, and I have to pick up refills for it before I can even use it, which is why I'm tracking the pickups that I get. Because you can actually get pickups for it. It is tracking those, even though I don't have it yet. Let me think. I think I'm at 1. Oh, and I didn't mention this triple missile sub-weapon that I picked up in Area 1. You can see it on the pause screen there. I have 39 left. But basically, you press down and shoot to shoot them, and they do more damage than Crusher even does. It's like 4 shots worth. And so I'm using them strategically to try to take out some of these things to either get rid of enemies on screen that are really tough or to try to get hover refills. Yeah, I'm making this look easy right now. It's really not. Area 3 is... I mean, it's got one of the best tracks in the game, but you're going to be hearing it a lot because you're going to be dying here a lot. That's somewhere around 3 or 4 H's. These turrets can sometimes knock you out of the air, but otherwise they're not really much of a threat. Ouch. Yeah, that can happen sometimes. I don't have as many H's as I would want. That's okay. We're starting to get close to the end of this level. And I'm taking a little damage. Sometimes it gets scary because, like, the thing is that enemies dropping health is random. So sometimes you can get a spell of bad luck, and when that happens when you're low on health, then suddenly you start getting real scared. But we're coming up on the Area 3 dungeon here. And really, there's not way too much to this dungeon, except that there's spikes in the way, and they're going to hurt a bit. And while I can just go right through them and not care about my health like in Area 2, I do have to be a little bit careful because Area 3's boss is basically the first really challenging one of the game. Detour a little bit to get this heat-seeking missile sub-weapon. And four bars is good enough for this fight. So this is Photophage. He's a little bit of a blockhead. Basically, he's going to spawn here, and then every time you take out a block, it's going to spawn in another location, and you got to know the spawning pattern and just take him out. Because if you don't take him out, then they're going to go dormant, and they could revive at any time, and if you're not on top of him, then he can quickly spawn out of control and become a serious danger. So this is the point at which the category should be mentioned. I am running warpless. And the reason we call this warpless is there's a certain amount of backtracking required. The first thing I should point out, well, I have 4 bars of hover, which is not good because I need a minimum of 5 for where I need to go. But yes, Photophage dropped the hover module. And so I need to backtrack all the way back to Area 1. And there's basically 3 ways to do that. There's the long, slow road, and then there's 2 ways of doing it that we don't allow because we consider those warps. One of them is for me to lose all my lives and get a game over, and that's going to warp me back to the entrance of Area 3, which is where I need to go anyways. The other way is that on the Japanese version, if you press the reset button on your console, it'll throw you back to the title screen, but it doesn't properly clear out memory, so you'll still have all of your upgrades, which means you could start the game right at Area 1. But I prefer to run warpless, partly because I don't really like to do intentional deaths or even press the reset button, because this is no reset. And we do have shortcuts through areas 3 and 2 to get back to where we go quickly. That's worth mentioning because some of these areas look like large, elaborate mazes, but they're really just... it's basically just one giant square map with walls blocking off bits and pieces of it. And when you go to one edge, you basically wrap around. And that's worth knowing a little bit just because dungeons are kind of the same way. There's like 4 or 5 dungeons per level, but there's not really 4 or 5 separate dungeon maps. There's just one large dungeon map, and each entrance takes you to a different part of the map. And usually they use walls to partition it off so that you can't go from one dungeon to another. But that's going to become important going into Area 4, which is all the way back at the beginning here. And if I was low on hover, these flying guys can drop refills. And be careful here. You don't want to get knocked down while flying up. These guys are just looking to knock you out of the air. If they hit me, then I suddenly stop flying, and I fall back down, and I don't have those hover refills to get up here again. Oops, wrong button. All right, so down here we have Area 4, which is kind of a bit of a sewer maze. But it's not quite as hard as Area 3. It's a little easier to get lost in, but otherwise it's not too hard. Or at least it's not too hard in a casual play, but it's probably one of the parts that I'm most scared of in a speedrun. It's worth noting that warp categories will skip this area and go straight to Area 5 using a glitch. But unfortunately, it's only possible to do that if you're willing to accept a game over or press the reset button, and those aren't allowed in this category. So anyone who is familiar with this game will realize that I'm going the wrong way on this in this maze, and that I'm going to a different dungeon entrance than the one I'm supposed to. And I'm going to have to concentrate for this because this part's pretty hard. But basically, that water is instant death. Oops. So I didn't line up the guy right. But yeah, that water is instant death, and I was supposed to use invincibility frames to cross it. Yeah, I'm just not lining this up right. Hold on. All right, we're home free for now. But yeah, you can see your invincibility really doesn't last very long. So you're supposed to use that to cross. Well, you're not supposed to, but I do it. And but if you mess it up, and it's very easy to just plummet in the water and die. Oh, and this is Fred the Frog, who is susceptible to the same glitch that Crabulus was in Area 2. Just put one grenade in his mouth and then he's over. And the upgrade he drops for you is quite literally a key to the next level. That's all it is. It's just a literal key. It's not the worst upgrade in the game either. And then I do need to get back because it dumped me off at the dungeon entrance that it expected me to be at. But luckily, the way back is a little bit easier. But yeah, I've already lost 2 lives to Area 4, which is really not that good, because if I die one more time, then this run is no longer considered warpless. But yeah, you're deposited at the entrance, and you got to navigate all the way back up. One nice thing about taking an unintended entrance there is that my hover bar is full. I mean, I would have had to use some to get out of the intended entrance, but since I'm in that one, I've managed to save a bit of fuel. All right, so I have another glitch that I'm going to be demonstrating here. This is going to be something called a door wrap. And basically, if Jason walks into a door, but then you tap the opposite direction at the right time, you do that. You kind of go through a door transition, but the wrong way. I'm normally supposed to climb up that ladder, jump down, grab that ladder in order to unlock the other side. And so that glitch right there is what would allow you to get to Area 5 without doing Area 4, but then you would have no way to get back without using a continue. And so Area 5 is a water level. You dump the tank very early. In fact, I've dumped it a little too early. I had to use it to destroy some destroyable blocks, but then I had Jason swim through those blocks, and those blocks are going to respawn when I get back, so I don't have any real way to destroy them without the tank. But that's a problem for later. For now, you've got a very long swimming sequence here, and so this level is pretty dangerous because, like, Jason is kind of weak in this side-scrolling view without the tank to support him. Those enemies are going to be hurting him a lot. It takes me like 3 shots out of my pea shooter to take out these little scuba divers, and those are the weak ones. So you got to swim through all of this to get to the correct dungeon entrance where there's enemies swarming you all over. And so I need to talk about the boss of this dungeon because he is very, very difficult. He's a giant crab, and he shoots lots of bubbles, and he is by far the most difficult boss in the game. Like, he's so bad that in earlier speedruns, I would go out of my way to upgrade the gun all the way to full just to make sure that I had a way to beat him. Now, I'm not doing that here because I do have a different way to deal with him that hopefully I can demonstrate here. I had to do a lot of pause buffering there to make sure I get this, but basically, go back to the previous room and turn him into a Game Boy. You don't want to fight a crab, you want to fight a Game Boy. Game Boys are just going to sit there and not fight back. That trick is one of the reasons we like to run the Japanese version. It's a lot easier to pull off. It's got like 6 to 8 frames of window to pull it off. And so, now that I have that upgrade, which is the dive module, it's going to allow the tank to basically propel through water very, very quickly. But I have to get all the way back to the tank first, which, as I mentioned earlier, I left on the other side of some blocks that I have no way of destroying. While I swim back here, I got to keep an eye on my health real well. Actually, later problem. So I kind of want to go into the next room with 3 to 4 bars of health, ideally 4, because that door wrap glitch that I mentioned earlier, we're going to do it again. In fact, we're going to do it 3 times. You're going to notice as I approach this door that the collision is not quite matching what you see on screen. That's because each time I do a door wrap, it's shifting the blocks over like 1 tile visually. And so it's important that I not die in this room, usually, because if I died in this room, then it would put me back at the door and it would make me stuck in a block with no way to move. Basically, it would be a soft lock. Although since I'm on my last life, I would actually game over instead and be okay. But you don't want a soft lock. But yeah, I did that to kind of clip through the destroyable blocks and get back to my tank that way. And that actually skipped like the second half of the level because the tank can't actually aim up while it's using the dive module. So I wouldn't have been able to destroy those blocks anyways, even if I had the tank with me. So moving on, this is area 6. It's your basic ice level. And so it's going to be kind of annoying to control, but you know they're giving you a few rooms to adjust first, but then they're throwing all these marbles at me. And they kind of hurt. Oh, and then they've got these crabs, not the crabs, the worms all over the place, and they're going to be really difficult to deal with normally. But since I know where they're all going to spawn, I can just tag them out of the air before they even hit the ground. So I'm normally supposed to go all the way up to the ceiling on the left side, but I have more than enough hover to just cut corners there. That saved me a little bit of time in that room. I want to say, like, I don't know, 15 seconds. Leap of faith here. But I'm going to use some hover to buffer it, and so I didn't have faith. But that's okay. I would rather guarantee the jump than fall all the way down, because I would have had to either take an intentional death or backtrack all the way back to the beginning there, and it would not be fun. You can see that they're trying to combine ice physics here with spikes and basically mess up your day. So that's one of the things that will make this level difficult, but it's a little bit easier than Area 5, really. We're going to see a little bit of lag in this room because we've got all of these bees flying around here. Oops. That's all right. And so we're finally going to get to the Area 6 dungeon, which can be a little bit of a danger because I'm going to be walking across spikes here, and we've again got ice physics trying to send you into spikes and mess up your day. So pick up a little health there for safety. Just because of health pickups like that, Area 6's dungeon isn't quite as dangerous as it seems, although it still has some trouble spots that you got to watch out for. Should I grab the health? No. There's a little shortcut here that is really difficult to navigate sometimes. Using the spikes there basically guarantees that I'll make it into the room, but makes me take some extra damage. But that's okay because as long as I get this, I'm going to be fine. So this is going to be Frozen Crabulus, basically a retread of Area 2's boss. But you have to be careful here because he's prone to lagging. You can only throw out one grenade. You got to nail it. And if you lag too much, then he might start going through the death animation, but still be alive, and he could kill you while he's dying. So you don't want a zombie Frozen Crabulus. So the upgrade that Frozen Crabulus dropped is Wall 1. It's going to allow me to drive up walls, basically. So that seems kind of cool, right? Now I'm a spider tank. Does whatever a spider tank does. The entrance to Area 7 is in Area 2. So again, we're going to have some backtracking here. And if I had not unlocked this door right here, I would have needed to take a game over in order to get past it. All right, so we've got a little bit of jumping back up here because the hover refills that we used to get up here are back. And so they're going to make a neat little safety as we go into the final two areas, Areas 7 and 8. Hopefully I get to keep it because if you take a game over, you will lose all that hover. One of the things that makes Warpless a little different because you actually have sub-weapons and hover to play around with in the later stages, whereas you don't in the other categories. Got to be a little careful here because that guy can knock you into the water and force you to swim all the way out again. But if you build up enough momentum, then he can't interrupt you going in there. All right, so we're cutting back over here to this side of Area 2 again. Because the entrance to Area 7 is going to be down here. Lots of worms. Why do I keep calling them crabs? They're worms. But yeah, you're going to have basically just a long empty hallway here. You know, do a little dancing to the music. And then you've got a very tall room here, which you can't hope to have enough hover to get all the way up here. So you got to use your new wall unit to just drive up the wall and use hover to save a little bit of time. I don't need to use it to get up there, but it can save you just a little bit of time. So Area 7 is normally a very long area with a lot of long hallways, and you end up spending several minutes to get all the way through it. But we're going to go in the wrong dungeon again. And I hope I pull this off first try. This is even more difficult than Area 4, so give me a bit. Got it. So that's more difficult because you have to somehow get hit while you're already over the lava. It's really hard to do. And we've got another frog, repeat of Area 4's boss, but again, grenade in the mouth, pause. And then it's going to drop for me wall 2. So again, I got to concentrate because I got to get back. The next crossing isn't so bad, but the initial crossing I used to get over here in the first place, I gotta, yeah. Got it. That is really hard to do. I'm really glad that I got it both ways, first try, which is great because this run's still valid. I still haven't used a game over yet, and I'm on my last life. All right, so the upgrade that was dropped was Wall 2. So you might think, hey, Wall 1 was pretty good. I bet Wall 2 is pretty great, right? No. Wall 2 is by far the worst upgrade in the game. And you're probably not going to see why from my platforming, but basically, so it allows you to drive on ceilings, and that's okay. But then when you drive off ledges, you cling to the ledge. And if the animation for transitioning to the ledge activates, that takes priority over jumping. So Wall 2 can interrupt your jump and prevent you. It can send you places that you don't want to go, like that lava right there. If I don't jump early enough, then I might suddenly find myself swimming in acid. It is a terrible upgrade. And the game is trying to kill you with it. Right there, I had to do a little jump just to make sure that I would not accidentally go over the ledge there. One of the things about Wall 2 is that it only activates if you're actually holding left and right, and you have to be a specific distance from the edge. And so if you're too far over the edge, it won't activate, and if you're not holding the button, it won't activate. So keep that in mind. But yeah, the entrance to Area 8 is over here. And I could use my hover to get up there and save time, but I'm going to preserve it to make sure that I get through this area safely. Because if you thought any other part of the game was hard, then oh boy, because there are spikes everywhere, and Wall 2 is trying to send you into them, and you're going to lose a lot of health just trying to navigate this level safely. So I keep some hover around for situations like that. It's possible to get through there without the hover, but it's pretty difficult, and I don't want to risk it. But then you're going to have one of the worst rooms in the game right here. There's worms, there's spikes, there's low ceilings, basically everything you need to have a bad time. Okay, I made that look easy. It's not easy. It is really, really hard.
Then you're doing your job well.
Yeah. This game is infamous for its difficulty. And, like, if you somehow, through everything, manage to get all the way to Area 8, then you're probably going to die in that hallway with the worms and the spikes. It is so difficult. Yeah, this room is kind of long, and it's got all these flying things, and it's got dropping marbles on you, but honestly, it's kind of a relief in comparison, as long as you came in here actually having life. And this room's not as bad as it looks. And here we are, finally the dungeon. So Area 8 actually has 2 bosses. If any of you saw the US cartridge, then you're going to recognize the plutonium boss right here, because he's on the cartridge. So I'm doing a thing here where I'm pausing and unpausing rapidly. Unlike the other bosses, he does not take damage while the game is paused, but the iframes do run down, so... Uh-oh, we got a zombie here. All right, we're good. But then we've got one more boss, and I'm going to take this very, very safely because I'm on my last life. Same trick that we did for Hard Shell. Just go back to the previous room. He can't hurt you this way. I don't normally do the boss this way, but with me low on health and on my last life, I'm not taking chances. So yeah, just throw a whole bunch of grenades at him. Time's gonna be, he's gonna start exploding, but then time's gonna be when the game fades out. And so that's probably gonna be another 10 seconds from now. He'll start exploding, and then we'll get a fade out. And time. That is such a hard game. So I don't even care what my time is. I'm super happy that I only died twice. This game is hard.
What do you mean? You're almost 5 minutes under estimate, and you just kicked that game's ass. That was amazing.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say now. Oh, and if you saw the US ending, you might notice there's no frog. The plot's completely different. You're not chasing a frog in this version.
Oh, God. Rip frog. Well, I got to say, thank you very much for an amazing run of an amazing game. And yes, it is tough as nails. It's a very, very hard game. You made it look super easy, which, I mean, we can't ask for any more than that. And, I mean, hopefully you had a good time. I know it's a very, very hard run, and it's especially in the marathon setting. So, yeah, I mean, that was amazing, man.
Thank you very much. That was a blast.
Well, and you mastered it.
Dad jokes, I love them.
Oh, yeah. So, well, I mean, it's been a hell of a day. It's not even close to being done. We got Super Smash TV coming up, and everyone just blew that donation incentive out of the water a couple of hours ago. So we will be getting Super Smash TV and a turbo mode run right after it. So we're double dipping in the Super Smash TV goodness. It's going to be with 40-watt range. It's going to be a beat the game easy category on the SNES. But let's hear it one more time for DavidTKI with his amazing run. Come on.